noticed from my speech today, I am going to talk about juggling. And I've been a juggler for 6 years now. And over my 6 years, I've been able to learn how to juggle, and I've been able to do 7 balls, and I'm working on 9 right now. So today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about juggling and give you an introduction to it, talk about some of the difficulties and some of the advantages of juggling. And I'll talk about history, some common juggling patterns, and what side swaps are, which is a cool juggling notation I can teach you. And to begin, I will talk to you about the history of juggling. Now, juggling, our first understanding of juggling, we learned in Egypt. So it was back in, we understand that on an Egyptian tomb, there was this picture of these women juggling, and you can see each of them are juggling 3 balls, and you know it's pretty accurate compared to some modern day depictions of juggling where you can see they're kind of in a circle, and their arms are far apart, which really doesn't work for juggling. So it's impossible to juggle like that. So these were some actual depictions of juggling in Egyptian. And throughout history, there's been some stories of juggling. For instance, there was a story in, I think it was an ancient Chinese text of a man juggling 7 swords, and as well as some other ones of 7 knives and even 8 apples. So these juggling stories are overblown. Even now, it's very difficult to juggle anything close to 7 clubs, which would be like the equivalent of swords or anything. So we can understand that these are overblown a bit. It's difficult to understand just how many balls somebody's juggling. I'm sure that they were just a little bit exaggerated when they were understanding this. So I learned this from an article published in March of 2002 by Arthur Lubel, who wrote Research in Juggling History. And here's where he talked about portrayals of juggling in history and just how difficult it is to find some of these sources. He scoured through many different books and journals, and there is really little known about the history of juggling as a whole. To continue on, I will talk about the advantages of juggling and why you should start juggling yourself. To begin, I will talk about just how much exercise juggling is. So in her article, Krieger states that juggling is in her article, Juggling an Unexpected Workout, Krieger states in 2014 that juggling can burn up to 280 calories per hour, which is the equivalent of walking. And that is for just juggling 3 balls, like so. That is a pretty good workout. And for anything higher than 3 balls, that's even more calories that you're burning. And you can get some really good exercise out of that. Now, for her article, she talked about how easy it was to start juggling. And she took a class. It was just a 1-hour class, and she was able to learn how to juggle and learn about these advantages. Secondly, for mental well-being, juggling, just like any other exercise, is good for your mental well-being. It can relieve stress. Now, this year, Manal Zainuddin, in The Influence of Ball Juggling on Emotional States, describes how juggling before tests can relieve stress and can keep the test goer more calm with a lower heart rate. Juggling is a great exercise if you just want to calm down. Just like meditation, it can bring you into like a flow state where you just forget about what you're doing and you can calm yourself down. Thirdly, it can increase the gray matter in your brain. So in a 2004 article in the study on neuroplasticity and how it changes in gray material induced by training, Dragansky shows that juggling for any period of time, for the period in the article, they did an hour every week for several weeks, 6 weeks. They showed that people who learned how to juggle had a larger amount of gray matter in their brain, which is the connections between neurons. So the brains of jugglers were more complex and more highly adapted to learn new things than those of non-jugglers. Next, I will be talking about some common juggling patterns and demonstrating them for you. So in basically all my sources, these were some of the most common juggling patterns. So in both the Physics of Juggling, published in The Physics Teacher by Bruce and Dean, and The Science of Juggling, published in Scientific American by Beek and Lubel, these 3 patterns are described in detail because of their simplicity in juggling and how from these patterns you can learn new tricks and learn new routines. So first we have Cascade. So Cascade is what I was doing with 3 and also what I was doing with 5 when I came out here. So in Cascade you have like 2 parabolas for each ball, which cross at a point. So this is used for only odd numbers of balls. So for instance, for 3 balls, for 5 balls, for 7 balls, and so on and so forth. So Cascade is the first juggling pattern you usually learn. It's the easiest juggling pattern, and you're alternating between one hand and then the other hand, where each ball is moving underneath the ball before it. Next, I'll be talking about Fountain. So Fountain is for only even number of balls. So in Fountain, you're juggling 2 balls in each hand. So in each hand, you're making a small
I can even tell.
little circle. Lastly, we have Shower. So Shower is where you're juggling around in a circle. This is usually what people first think of when they think of juggling, but in reality it's a more complex pattern. So this leads us into site swaps. So for a 3-ball cascade, the site swap might look like just 3 because each ball is juggled at a height of 3. Whereas for the Shower, we have a different site swap. It's 5, 1. So to give you a short explanation, every other throw I'm throwing a 5 or a 1. So a 5 is at a height of 5. It's pretty high. A 1 is just passing between my hands. It's really low. So I'm throwing a 5 and then a 1. 5 and then a 1. Back and forth. So site swaps we can use to describe different juggling patterns. And then I will talk about numbers juggling. So numbers juggling is basically juggling as many as possible. To do this, you have to have usually small balls, so you can hold as many as you can in your hand. And a flash is when you throw all the balls up and you catch them all in the opposite hands. So to flash is once. To qualify is to do that twice. Here we have, I need to turn the lights off. Here we have an example of the world record for 11 balls. This is by Alex Barron. And
Look how fast he's going.
That's a new world record. I think, yeah. I think it is.
so that was the world record for 7 balls, or for 11 balls. So, to talk more about that. So Alex Barron is the best numbers juggler in the world. And he was able to have the world record for 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14 balls, 14 being just the flash. So in the physics and physicality of extreme juggling, Ravi Gonzalez describes how tough it is on the body to be juggling this many, and just how much weight you're throwing up in the air, and how you're like 1.5 pounds of weight on each hand when you're starting out. And then as you continue, you have to have such accuracy and precision and the hand speed to continuously throw these balls. Now, Alex Barron is pretty ripped. He has large shoulders, and it takes some real muscle to get these balls up. And to conclude, I hope I got you into juggling maybe. So we can see here an otter juggling, and I hope that you will learn to juggle as well after learning just a bit about the history and the different ways you can juggle yourself.